Hey everyone, it's Michael and Kylene from 4 Fuel Sports Nutrition. In today's video, we're talking about how to fix bloating quickly. And we have 5 tips to help you. Thankfully, we have the expert here. And though a lot of us have bloating, we think it might be normal. And in fact, I thought bloating was so normal that I kept a bottle of Pepto-Bismol in my locker in high school.
Ooh, that's terrible, really?
I had chewables in my car. I just thought that's just what happened. You know, just some people were that way, right?
A lot of people are still that way.
Thankfully, I met you though, and you're a huge help. So what do you have in store for us?
Something like having a built-in dietitian in the home. No, just kidding. But anyway, just because bloating or any gut issues for that matter is common doesn't make it normal. Just because you've experienced it for years and it's still happening daily doesn't make it normal. And we're here today to help you kind of figure that out. So to make a long story short, I've worked with thousands of clients over the years and I've kind of become a gut specialist, whether I wanted to or not, it just happened. And I found that there are basically 5 categories, 5 buckets you could fall into that cause your bloating. So I'm going to kind of review those today because you have to know what bucket you fall into in order to figure out which steps and strategies to take to get yourself out of that bloating bucket. And by the way, we do not want you to feel discouraged if you get to the end of this video, you implement a few of the practices and you think, this didn't really work. We have a huge blog post, like 3,500 words on how to fix bloating quickly.
15 different references, a really well-written article, all kinds of tips in there.
Yes. And a free video series to help you kind of get to the root of your chronic ailment, whether it be bloating, fatigue, fart, sinus issues, whatever, by using an elimination diet.
I'll have a link to the blog post in the show notes, as well as you can go to 4fuel.com/video-series to sign up for the elimination diet video series. It'll walk you through how to get started on elimination diet, do one successfully, rookie mistakes, how to fix those. It's a free series. So I'll put that in the show notes as well.
Okay. And this probably goes without saying, but if you still are struggling to get to the root, it's time to work one-on-one with a functionally trained registered dietitian.
All right, to do that, we have 4fuel.com/coaching-packages, so you can find all the information about working on an all-star like her. But for now, let's dig into your 5 tips and let's dig into the presentation right now.
Let's do it. Now the moment you've all been waiting for, how to fix bloating quickly. So today's agenda: what is bloating, how to fix bloating fast, and then I'm going to give you my best insider tips, tricks, and products to tackle your bloating. So believe it or not, a lot of people, even though they experience bloating regularly, don't know what bloating is. They don't realize that it's the sensation of feeling tight, full, or swollen in the abdomen. Think of it more as like an uncomfortable pressure. A lot of my clients joke and they say, oh man, when I bloat after a meal, it looks like I'm 4 months pregnant. So this is different than just having a bigger meal, your stomach's a little more full. This is more of like an uncomfortable, somewhat swollen, pressure-filled, tight puff out, if you will. Bloating most commonly occurs after eating and drinking, but can occur at any time of the day for a variety of reasons. Upper stomach and lower stomach, by the way. It doesn't discriminate. But let's take a few steps back. It's so incredibly important to understand that the immune system operates like a bucket, and you have to kind of understand this to understand where this bloating is coming from. And you can't fix it without knowing where it's coming from. So the immune system, which, the vast majority of it resides in the gut, is like a bucket. And when it experiences stress and trauma and junk food and environmental toxins and poor sleep and overtraining and you name it, the compilation is different for every person, the bucket overflows, so to speak. How do we know it's overflown? Because we're bloated, we're tired. Some of us have migraines, some of us have joint pain, some of us have chronic sinus issues. So it's a little bit different for each person, but bloating is typically a response that the body has when it's just had enough, the bucket's overflown. And I want to help you empty the bucket, or at least partially empty that bucket. And by doing that, the bloating will start to subside. We have to kind of figure out what's causing your body to overflow, what's poking the immune system before we make it any further. Everyone's always trying to jump on these juice cleanses and the pill for this and a cream for that and bloating. Oh my gosh, look at this bloating detox. And yeah, that's fine, but it's just, it doesn't really work that way. It's not that easy. And here's the thing. Why is it not that easy? Because you have to get to the root. You have to figure out why you're bloating in the first place. Yes, it's common, but the reason for it is usually pretty different from person to person. We're also biologically unique. It only makes sense. I really need you to start tuning into your body in order to have success and to actually fix bloating fast. Because guess what? This probably won't surprise you, but what works immediately for me probably won't work immediately for you. And I'm sorry to say, but there's absolutely no such thing as a one-size-fits-all for a quick bloating fix. That's why it drives me crazy when like 10 people will buy, a juice cleanse or a certain pill promising them, magical big poops and less bloating, and that's fine. And it might be okay, but if you don't get to the root of why your gut is malfunctioning, you're never going to make it very far in this department. So, after doing this for so long, for so many years, I categorize my bloaters into 5 different categories. And honestly, you could be 3 of the 5, you could be 1 of the 5, you could be 5 of the 5. A lot of people are 5 of the 5, but we have the speed demon, the junk food addict, the overly stressed, those that have a genetic component, or maybe even they just genetically have a lack of an enzyme. We'll get into that in a few minutes here. Or a bacterial imbalance or overgrowth. Those are typically the 5 main reasons, the 5 roots of why one might bloat. And again, you could be 2 of the 5, you could be 4 of the 5, different for every person. Okay, so are you the speed demon? Do you eat really fast? Are you always finished before everyone else? Did you grow up in a big family where if you didn't chow down your food, you didn't get fed? I see that a lot in my practice. It's so funny. Have you ever actually clocked the time? Have you watched how fast you eat? Whether it's your watch, your phone, you set a timer, I don't know, but really pay attention. Are your portions massive and you're housing them down? Do you ever feel really sick after you eat and you think, oh my gosh, I thought I was hungry 10 minutes ago, now I'm gonna blow chunks? Like that's the speed demon. Do you use a lot of straws? Do you drink a lot of carbonated beverages with those straws where you're sucking down fluid and there's air pockets blowing up in the gut? All of this together can cause uncomfortable bloating where your stomach blows up just because of the air pockets, a large volume of food in a short period of time, your body can barely catch up. You might be the speed demon. And by the way, towards the end of this presentation, I'm going to address each of these 5 categories and help you kind of get through them. Then there's the junk food monster. Hey, I'm having cereal for breakfast. I'm having a sandwich for lunch. And I'm having pasta for dinner. And guess what? I'm going to do a little snickety snack of a candy bar in the mid-afternoon. Maybe I'll do some crackers. Maybe I'll do some fruit snacks. Right? It's the American way. It's the SAD diet, aka the standard American diet. This alone could be causing you to have bloat. Like the body wasn't meant to metabolize and utilize all these chemicals and additives. We have so much today in our food that our grandparents didn't have, and the body knows that. The body is so intelligently and intricately designed. Our physiology knows, like, I can't keep eating these chemicals all day and think my gut's gonna be happy about that. Especially now that we know most of the immune system lives in your gut. Like, how can you expect to eat processed food all day, every day and feel good and not bloat? Even if the calories are low or the protein is high or whatever, you're meeting your macros, I don't know. It doesn't necessarily mean you're gonna feel good, especially if you have microbial imbalance. For example, candida is yeast. It's in the body, it's naturally occurring, it's supposed to be there. But when there's an overgrowth of that yeast, whether it be from, stress, antibiotics, birth control, whatever, reflux meds that cause the yeast to kind of go wild, any kind of sugar and refined carbohydrate will feed that yeast like crazy and you will bloat like a champion. And by the way, that's just one example of many. How about the stress warrior? So many of us really do eat pretty well. We don't eat too fast, but we just feel like we're bloated more often than we should be, and that's often my stress warriors. Remember, the gut and the brain directly connect through the vagus nerve. They're constantly sending signals. And if you're stressed all day, the body kind of goes into this fight or flight response, cortisol, the major stress hormone, shoots up, and your body isn't really that focused on your digestion. It's focusing on helping you survive. It doesn't have to be, I always tell my clients this, it doesn't have to be death, trauma, or divorce. Like just even being overly busy, trying to fit in exercise while working all day and picking kids up from school, and maybe you're going back to school yourself. It's different for every person, but even just being overly busy, which is technically good stress, puts your body into that fight or flight response, and it takes away from digestion. Your body's main focus is no longer digesting the food. It's more of like, let me help this human survive. Let me get more blood to the brain. And as a result, you kind of feel like there's just sludge in your stomach all the time, and you feel like you're bloated and you don't feel well after you eat, even if the food was fairly healthy. This is so common. I cannot tell you how many times I've worked with people where we fix the diet, we get into a good groove, exercise routines rolling, we're on the right supplements, they still don't feel great. And it's not until we address the stress, properly and consistently address the stress, that I can get the bloating to go away. So that means they wasted all this money on these juice cleanses and special fiber pills, and all we had to do was tackle the stress. It might be worth your time to kind of look into stress first before you even dive into the other categories. Okay, how about lack of an enzyme? It could be that you're missing a digestive enzymes in general. Like your gut should have these naturally occurring, but when you go through, just different things in life and environmental toxins, stress, medications, like I said, it takes your body's natural ability to digest food, kind of away. And it's just tough because you could be eating really well, but if you don't have essentially those acidic components to digest your food, it's going to sit there like a snake that swallowed a big mouse and it's just going to hang out. And sometimes it's just genetic. Like, for example, you don't have lactase, the enzyme needed to digest lactose, which is the sugar, which is a component of cow's milk. So it's one example of many, but, digestive enzymes, we'll get to that in a little bit here, but ideally you work with a functional practitioner and they help you find an enzyme that might work for you. Maybe you need something more general. Maybe you need maybe they look at your food and symptom journal and they see that you struggle to digest protein. So maybe they'll put you on, HCl. Maybe you've had your gallbladder out. You don't really digest fat very well. They might put you on ox bile. I love orthodigestzyme by Orthomolecular. It's kind of just a comprehensive digestive enzyme. Great to have before meals, just meals in general. Again, I'm not your healthcare provider. I don't know what your medical history looks like or what you can tolerate or what your gut health looks like. But there's always a method to the madness. There's always something you can do. But this is really, really common. And then, the worst, bacterial overgrowth or an imbalance of bacteria. Your gut is this beautiful ecosystem of trillions of bacteria. It's kind of like the Amazon. And you have essentially a big garden in there, and when everything is balanced. When it's not balanced because of stress, poor diet, lack of fiber, whatever, medications, NSAIDs, all of the above, then all of a sudden the bad guys can sometimes overgrow and the good guys kind of just stop doing their job, stop, manifesting and growing, and all of a sudden you have these weeds, all these junky weeds that have overgrown in the gut, so to speak, overgrown in the Amazon. And now you're not digesting your food like a well-oiled machine anymore. You're not breaking down the nutrients. You're not taking them and utilizing them and plugging them into the cells, the muscles. And this is so common. But how many doctors are actually running an advanced stool test on you? It's usually very general test. They might be like, oh, let's do a colonoscopy or let's do an endoscopy. And that's fine, but that's like the end of the road. Those aren't gonna flag unless you're a complete disaster. Like, you have to catch it more, upstream with something, like a functional GI test. We do it all the time in our practice, and it's like the bread and butter of what we do. And this can change everything. We'll talk about this more in a minute, but it's really worth your time finding a functional practitioner. If you've been dealing with bloating for a long time, you've addressed the stress, you're eating well, you're not, doing anything crazy, it might be worth it to find a functional practitioner if you still feel like you're chronically inflamed, chronically bloated. Okay, now how do we fix this? All right, the speed demon. Consider putting your fork down between bites. Heck, use chopsticks if that's helpful. Use your non-dominant hand to eat. Setting a timer, I mentioned that before, but really try to make your meal last 20 minutes. I promise you, I think it's a lot harder than it sounds. It's easier said than done. So just try it once. Maybe you chew longer per bite. Maybe you just hold a conversation. Maybe you read the newspaper. Whatever it takes, but try it and see if that helps and stay consistent. For my little junk food monster, I have a cheat sheet coming up for you in a few slides here, but look at the meal plan I'm about to attach and follow it religiously for 5 consecutive days. You can totally screenshot it or take a picture with your phone when it comes up, but just do it for 5 consecutive days. And if you don't know where to start, if you're not really sure what your culprit is, what your root is, start with the food. Okay, if you're a little stress ball, begin a stress relief modality of choice today. Yes, I said today. I don't care if you YouTube, 10-minute meditation, 5-minute meditation for anxiety, bedtime meditation. I love Headspace. That's the app that I have, but I don't care where you get it. Just stay consistent. Maybe that sounds terrible to you. Maybe you want to look into acupuncture. Maybe you want to look into Tai Chi or yoga, or even just taking deep breaths, making it part of your daily routine to take deep breaths. Before you walk into a meeting or something terrible and stressful happens, all right, take 5 deep breaths in that moment before you even go on to the next activity, before your thoughts even move on. And again, stay consistent with this and you will be shocked at what will come of it in a few weeks. And by the way, for many of us, this takes a few months of practice. A few months of practicing your favorite stress relief modality to actually notice a difference, to actually rewire the brain. Rome wasn't built in a day. We know this. The same can be said for stress. So the lack of enzymes, again, it's just best, instead of guessing, it's best to work with a functional nutrition expert. And then they can look at your test results and kind of figure out, all right, maybe they are digesting the food, maybe they're not. Maybe we need a general enzyme, maybe we need more of an enzyme that targets gluten and dairy, or maybe lectins, beans. Maybe they don't need an enzyme at all. It's kind of the same thing for dysbiosis, bacterial imbalance, overgrowth. Really, truly, the best way to detect that is a functional stool test. I love GI Map. That's what we use. Genova Diagnostics also is great. They have a GIFX. There's plenty others out there. But you want someone to run the stool test so we can figure out, all right, what do we need more of? What do we need less of? Food, supplements, let's refine this. It's kind of like training wheels, where I'm going to give you a plan for 3 to 6 months, and I'm going to help your body learn to run on its own. I'm going to try to reverse some of the damage that was done over the years from years of stress and drinking, living in a water-damaged building, having a tick, having, Lyme disease from a tick bite 10 years ago. Having fillings in your mouth that are full of mercury. It's just so different for every person. But it all adds up. It's all really important. And the sooner you can address this, the better your long-term health will be. I know the bloating is annoying, but I care so much more about preventing the chronic diseases, the cancers, the autoimmune issues later in life. Honestly, the bloating of today could potentially be, the Parkinson's, the MS, the Hashimoto's, the breast cancer of tomorrow, believe it or not. So for most people though, again, if you're not sure where to begin, the fastest way to fix bloating is to eat whole foods most of the time, at least 90% of the day, 80 to 90%, 100% is the dream. Assuming there are no major underlying health issues, this will help your bloating tremendously. So this is the little meal plan I talked about. Screenshot it, take a picture with your phone. You'll notice it's fairly low in allergens. There's a few in here, but more of the offensive foods that we eat all day, every day, and we don't even know we're eating, like corn, soy, wheat, dairy, the foods that are most heavily, chemically treated, manipulated in the agricultural world, in the manufacturing industry. And then you pair that with us eating these foods all day, every day. Like, so many people do not look at the ingredients in their pretzels, in their salad dressing, in their granola bar, in their smoothies, whatever. It's crazy what companies will use for fillers in order to save a buck, or to get a certain texture, or to preserve a certain ingredient or a certain meal. It's wild. So anyway, these are all basic foods. You can get them anywhere from Aldi to Whole Foods to Walmart to Costco to BJ's, wherever you shop, wherever you live in this country. It doesn't really matter. Find it on Amazon, whatever. And I try to make it pretty simple, but you could even buy this stuff in bulk at a wholesale place, cook it in bulk as well, and then just kind of eat it throughout the week. Remember, give me at least 5 days consecutive. Doing this religiously, really reading your ingredients. Like on your baked fish, you're not going to get it pre-made with a bunch of sauce. You're going to add your own salt, pepper, turmeric, ginger, garlic, whatever you love. You're going to know what's going into this food, and you're going to do this for 5 days, and you're going to see what happens. This is a really, really good place to start, and then follow up with the stress as part 2. I'll leave it on here for a few seconds for anyone that needs to do a last-minute screenshot. Okay, and we're rolling. All right, so here are my insider tips and tricks. So in addition to tackling the other things, especially a whole food diet, starting with apple cider vinegar. It's easy, it's safe, you can get it from the grocery store. You would take 1 tablespoon of apple cider vinegar in about 4 ounces of water, and you drink it before a meal. If you suspect that there's some digestive issues, especially with enzymes, and you don't really want to pay for functional testing yet, start with the apple cider vinegar. It will absolutely help your body break down food, pull out more nutrients. Then kind of like level 2 is digestive enzymes. I love the brands Pure Encapsulations. I love Integrative Therapeutics. I love Orthomolecular. They all just have great general enzymes as well as specific enzymes for things like gluten and dairy. I love oil of oregano. They're tiny little capsules. I use the brand Designs for Health, but plenty of other great brands. Now Foods has a good one too. But this is really nice if your practitioner told you that there's overgrowth, or maybe you suspect that there's yeast issues. That can be really helpful. It can be safe. Again, I don't know you. I don't know your medical history. Always talk to your doctor. I'm not sure how this will react with the medications you have at home, which is why I ask you to speak with your physician, your healthcare team. But these are good ones. Bromelain is great, naturally occurring enzyme in pineapple that helps you break down your food and is a big anti-inflammatory agent. Ginger is awesome for digestion. Great for nausea, great for breaking down food. Even just getting fresh ginger and cooking with it can make a world of difference depending on the person. I know this is so basic, but are you actually measuring your hydration to make sure you're getting enough? And sometimes just a very basic fiber supplement can be very helpful. But, that's probably stuff you've already tried. So I'd rather you look deeper into try the apple cider vinegar, look into the enzymes. I suggest taking the enzymes either right at the start of the meal or a few minutes before. Give your body a running head start. Don't do it. Sometimes it's too late if you wait till the end. And by the way, there will be links to these products in the show notes. We offer our clients, our viewers, 20% off a professional grade supplements. We can put links into everything we mention here. And again, the apple cider vinegar you'd find at your grocery store. Okay? And I guess one more really, really big take-home point is that if you have any of these issues, not just bloating, but unexplained fatigue, maybe you have headaches, illness, injury, cold, flu that keeps coming back and takes a long time to go away, just poor recovery, other GI issues, maybe you run to the bathroom, maybe you don't go poop every day. By the way, all of you should be pinching a loaf, making a Lincoln log every single day, at least once a day, ideally twice, but at least once a day. I don't care about what your doctor says about your genetics and what you've done your whole life. I don't care. I don't care if you haven't pooped every day for 30 years. I promise you there is something not working right, whether it's vitamin and mineral deficiencies, whether you're eating food you're sensitive to, whether you have bacterial imbalance, terrible overgrowth, yeast overgrowth. I mean, a million and one reasons, even stress alone. But I promise you, I have not had someone come to me and leave my office at the end of our sessions and say, oh, well, I didn't poop my whole life and I still don't poop. Like, nope. You dig far enough, you will find out where the malfunction is in the body, why they're not detoxing, and how to get those Lincoln logs out. So, incredibly important. Asthma, acne, hives, psoriasis, you name it, anything chronic, anywhere in the body, especially anything that has happened recent years, and has failed to respond to conventional medical therapy. Again, any symptom that has failed to respond to conventional medical therapy is a screaming red flag sign to you that it's time to look at digestion and change your diet. Food codes your DNA. You can use food to turn on and off your genes. No guarantee, but it is true that you can potentially silence very scary genes and you could potentially trigger those very scary genes depending on the way you take care of yourself, but especially the way that you eat. Food is the one thing that's touching your body, your GI tract, your immune system all day, every day. You wouldn't survive if it didn't. So just keep that in mind. A little food for thought, pun intended. So in summary, I beg you to get to know the why behind your bloating. It's the only way to fix bloating fast. It's just, you have to. In order to have long-term success, you have to find the why. Yeah, I know you could have short-term success with a few tips and tricks, but gotta know your why or your whys to get this fixed long-term. Then start to take those proactive measures immediately and stay consistent. Stay consistent, stay consistent, stay consistent, stay consistent. I don't know how many times I can say this, but that is the key to this whole thing. You can't just try it for 3 days and say, well, this isn't really working. You gotta let your body have a chance to get used to it and adapt. And I'll always be here for questions. Our blog is forwardfuel.com. Tons of great info. Just go in the search box and type in whatever you want to learn, whether it's type in bloating or we have a great article on the difference between food allergy, food sensitivity, and food intolerance. That's really important when you have a lot of bloating in some situations. Instagram is the fastest way to get a hold of me, fastest way to get a hold of us. We receive so many emails each day. I'd rather you just DM us at Forward Fuel on Instagram or message us through the blog. That's great too. But again, my name is Kylene Bogdan. I am a pro sports dietitian specializing in functional nutrition, and I really, truly appreciate your time today. And I hope from the bottom of my heart, from the bottom of my gut, from the depths of my bowels, that this presentation today helped you fix bloating fast.
All right, that was an awesome presentation. If you like this, share this with a friend so you can help their bloating as well. Also, hit that subscribe button so you get updates when we have new videos posted. And then if you want more information, as I said, I'll have in the blog show notes. We have a whole blog post, 3,500 words, a bunch of references on how to fix bloating fast, 3 awesome tips. We have coaching packages if you want to work with a dietitian. And we also have a free video series if you want to get started on an elimination diet and really turn your health around, fine-tune everything, figure out what things are really affecting you. Go to forwardfuel.com/video-series. That's all for now. Check us out on Instagram. We're super active on Instagram. Anything else?
Well, one last thing for the people in the back. Just because bloating is common doesn't mean it's normal.
All right, we'll see ya.